When it comes to cooking in a longer power outage or grid down type situation, a day to 3 days or even longer, it's important that we have some options for either warming up our food or cooking food. Now, this is not an absolute necessity because we can get by without hot food, but it will give your family a little bit more normalcy because they'll be eating things that they eat on a daily basis these days. And it will also help you have a little bit of variety in your meals and your food storage, which gives you some more options as far as what you can store and how you can prepare those. Today, I want to go over some options that we have to either heat up meals or cook meals in a longer term grid down type situation. From baking things like bread and biscuits and casseroles to just cooking things that we would normally use our kitchen stove for. And later on in the video, I want to go over what I think the most important option is as far as food storage goes for longer term type situations like this. Now, keep in mind, as I go through this list today, some of these are indoor options and some are outdoor options. And it really does, depending on the situation, you really want to make sure that you're not outside cooking and giving off smoke signals and the smells wafting around the neighborhood if nobody has food. If it's a shorter term type situation, that may not matter. Sometimes you may want to just keep everything indoors and not have those smells and the smoke rolling across the neighborhood. So the indoor options are important as well. And speaking of indoor options, you've got one that may not be an option for a lot of people and something that some people may need to save up for, but a transfer switch would allow you to use, if you have an electric grill, it would allow you to use that in your kitchen appliances. Now, this is something that it took me, I got one installed in my house, and it took me a long time just to save up to get one of these installed because I'm not good enough to be messing with the fuse box like that. But if you can do that, it really is a good option. There are people that rent homes or live in apartments and are not going to be able to do that. But a transfer switch would allow you to use those kitchen supplies and have a little bit of light in your house as well. Now, another option for this, if you're going to go the electric route, is the smaller power stations. These will power hot plates. These do take up quite a bit of energy. You're talking about 500 to 1,000 watts for these hot plates to run them, but you're usually not running them for an hour or so. You're only doing it for 15 minutes to boil some water or to heat up some soup, 10 minutes and things like that. So you're not going to use all of the power in that power station, but keep in mind, they do take up quite a bit of energy. This would be the most convenient and quick option to get something done though. So if you do have the ability to regenerate some of that power in the power station, that might be an option for you. So the first option is electric, where you've got the power stations, you've got the hot plate, or you go the route of putting a transfer switch in your home, which would allow you to use the appliances in your kitchen. All right, so now that we've talked about the big one, let's talk about some other options for indoor cooking. And I think one of them that is the lowest cost and easy to store are just the alcohol stoves. You've got these little stoves you can get on Amazon for like $15 a piece, and you should probably get at least 2 of them because once that fuel burns out in there, you can't just grab it and throw some more fuel in there. It's too hot, so you'd have to switch out the stoves. But these last for 15 or 20 minutes, so they're going to be able to boil a little pot of water, heat up some beans or anything like that, and then you could switch these out. These are nice, small, and compact. I've got a whole set of cooking options in a little storage closet that I have, and I've got these tucked away in there as well. You've got a number of different fuel types you can use for this. You've got denatured alcohol, Everclear, isopropyl alcohol, anything that will burn and not, give off fumes that you can use indoors is going to work with these stoves. So these are a great option for indoor cooking. You don't have to go outside. You don't have to interact with the neighbors. They're not going to see you out there doing stuff. You can just stay inside your home. If it's freezing cold outside, instead of having to eat that can of beans straight out of the can, you can heat that up a little bit. And then you've got one that is my favorite, and this is the butane stoves. I have both a gas one and an Iwatani stove. The Iwatani is rated for indoor use. It's a little bit more expensive than the gas one. There's a few different models of gas ones. But this Iwatani I absolutely love because it is one of the highest quality stoves on the market. It's rated for indoor use. We use it all the time when we have family gatherings. We use it just to make s'mores or something simple inside the house. And there's never been an issue. The butane fuel lasts quite a while. It doesn't do very well in cold temperatures, but inside your home, it shouldn't be much of an issue. But this butane stores really easily. You can store quite a bit of it, and this will last you in most power outages all the way through it, depending on the time length. But butane stoves are great because it just gives you more flexibility as far as what you're making, how long you can use that. With a hot plate, you're talking about 15 minutes and you're using all of your stored energy. With this, you can keep this on for an hour, and yes, you are going to use that fuel, but it's a lot less critical than that stored energy that you might need for lights and things like that. And along the same lines, you also have these Sterno type cooking fuels, and these are okay. I don't go out and store a lot of these specifically for this reason. I do have quite a few of these around the house because when we have family gatherings and holidays, we have people over and I have chafing dishes that I use these for doing fondue and things like that. There are a number of different reasons why you'd need these throughout the year in regular normal times. And I have quite a few of these stored. They store for basically forever. I don't know how long. I've never had an expired one. They're easy to store. They're safe to store, and they can be used to heat some things up. There are some that say they're extra hot, like the Instafire. The Instafire stove, the Vesta Instafire stove, is a great little tool for being able to boil water and things. Most of these aren't going to be able to boil water. The Instafire Instant Hot is actually extra hot. You've got the different brands, the cheaper brands that aren't going to be as hot, but they're still going to get the job done. So regardless of what type you have, they are going to work. It's just that some are going to work better than others. And if you do want to be able to, get really high temperatures, maybe think about one of those Vesta Instafires. They are a nice little tool to have. Now, one that is an outdoor option, but I've heard people use it or saying it could be used as an indoor option as well. If I were to use propane indoors, like the Coleman grills or even the hiking stoves, it would have to be a pretty tough situation. It wouldn't be something I'd do in normal times. But I have heard stories about people that just do it all the time and they don't even think twice about it anymore. So it's really up to you. I'm just saying what I do is not put myself in unnecessary risk until it has to. But you do have these small camp stoves, the hiking stoves, that you could use. And if I had to use one of these indoors, this would be what it was. These small hiking stoves pack away really small. They fold away. They're meant to, put in a bug out bag or something like that. You've got the propane canisters, which are the smaller, shorter, fatter type that you can connect the stove right on top to, and you can put a pan of whatever you want to, whether you're trying to boil water or heat something up that was previously in a can. You could do that with these stoves, and they don't have to be on for a very long period of time. And with these propane grills, and even the butane grills and all of these, you would want to make sure you have a carbon monoxide tester or alarm. I've got a few of these around the house, and one that is always near, if I'm using one of these, whether I'm just doing videos or I'm actually using them, it's always around where this cooking source is. But Coleman stoves are great because if you go camping or anything like that, the odds are you probably have one of these laying around. We've got a couple of them because I've got a really old one that still works after 20 years or so, and one that's 10 years old. It's still old, but it works as well. So we've got a couple of these, and you've also got to make sure with all the ones that I just talked about, you got to make sure you have the fuel stored as well for these. Even if it's just enough to last a few days, you would want to make sure you have that. The propane, you've got the 20-pound tanks, which if you have one for the outdoor grill, which is another option I didn't talk about. Outdoor grills are great, but they will give off that cooking smell. They will give off those smoke signals and things like that. but they are a good option. With that 20-pound tank, they will last quite a while. You can use that for probably 20 or 30 hours for one full 20-pound tank. And I suggest having at least one backup. You have one that's on the grill, and at the very least one that is ready to go full, topped off, and ready to go if the need arises. You can also use the smaller propane canisters, the 1-pound tanks, and they've even got an adapter where you could, it's a hose where you could use that 20-pound tank and hook it up to that 1-pound canister fitting. And they also have the fuel kegs, which you can take that 20-pound tank and refill some of these smaller 1-pound bottles. Now, moving to outside fires, I mentioned the propane grill, which in a lot of situations may work really well for you. But again, the longer things go on, the more dangerous this becomes, because you don't want the neighbors knowing that you've got food, that you've got things covered, and they don't. But you've also got wood fires, whether you're talking about outside, a fire pit, even a charcoal grill, things like that, or you're talking about inside, an inside fireplace that is big enough to put a Dutch oven or something like that in. These are all options as well, but again, the longer things go on, the less these become an option. You've got the rocket stoves, which are really nice with cooking with wood because, one, they take up very little fuel, so you don't have to go, chop down trees and things like that. They take very little fuel to get really high heat and cook a meal on them, and they don't give off as much smoke, and they don't smell as much as, say, a full-blown firewood. Even the fire coming out of your fireplace, the chimney, is going to give off smells to the neighbor that either you've got heat or you're cooking something, or you've got options where they might not have those. Now, along with these options that can be used for cooking but also heating, we need to think about those as well, those dual purpose things. So the fireplace should be used to heat your home, but you can also use it, like I said, put a Dutch oven in there and use that to heat your meals as well. We have a wood burning stove that it's got a mantle on top, and it doesn't get super hot, but it is hot enough to get some water warm or warm up some, a can of soup or something like that. There are potbelly stoves indoors and things like that can be used for heat as well as cooking. And even the buddy heaters, which would take that propane fuel, those 1-pound propane fuel tanks like I talked about, or the adapter, the hose to fit it to a 20-pound tank, those can be used for cooking as well, although you'd want to be careful with it. And this is one of those worst case scenario type things, but because they aren't meant for cooking. But you could get a paint can grate and put a little pot on top of that. You've got the kerosene heaters. You could fashion something with these. But again, that's not what they're meant for. So this should be a worst case scenario type situation where you use it only if and when you absolutely have to. But it doesn't hurt to figure out these options these days and have those ready to go in the event that you do need them. Another outdoor option, which is great as long as you have enough sun to do it, are these solar options. There are a few different types of solar ovens on the market. You've got the one that works the best is the All-American Sun oven, and I used to recommend that all the time. Unfortunately, they've basically priced themselves out of the preparedness market. At $700 or some dollars that they are these days, there are so many other things that you could spend that $700 on that will have a bigger impact on preparedness that I don't think it's even worth it these days. Back when I got mine, you're talking $350, $400 for the complete set. So it's twice as much as it used to be. Back then, I thought it was a good deal. These days, I don't know so much. I even made my own copycat solar oven because the prices started to go up, and I wanted to see how much it would cost me to build one of these solar ovens and how efficient it would be. It ended up costing me a couple $100, and back then it was so close to the price, I was like, well, it's kind of pointless because I'm sort of getting close to the price it would cost just to get a sun oven. These days, you can build one of these for 25% of the cost. They will take you a little bit of time, but it's pretty basic as far as how a solar oven works. I'll be doing a video about that, about how well it works and what I did, the basic process of building one of these in the near future here. So make sure and hit that, make sure and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when that video gets done. But there are other options as well. You've got some of them that the GoSuns and the little bag solar cookers. You've got a few DIY options, and all of these will sort of work, but they're not going to be able to hold a temperature like an All-American Sun oven because they don't have the insulation. It's just a bag or a pizza box. But they will work, they just won't hold that temperature. So they're not necessarily going to be able to cook bread or chicken or eggs or anything like that because they don't maintain a high enough temperature, but they will warm up some things and, you know, maybe cook some bacon or things like that. They will work, but just not as well as that All-American Sun oven. And unfortunately, the reason I built my own All-American Sun oven is because there aren't any options. There's no competition for the All-American Sun oven, which is why they feel like they can raise their prices to, you know, astronomical prices these days. But they do work really well, and if you do go out and get one, you're not going to be disappointed. Now, I mentioned earlier about the most important option as far as food goes in a longer term power outage type situation, even short term. And that is having foods that don't require any cooking whatsoever. And I know this video is about foods, you know, how to cook meals, but we also have to have those foods that don't require any cooking. You're talking about canned foods that you can open straight up. Maybe it's cans of tuna, cans of chicken, things that you could heat up but don't necessarily need to be heated up. Even the fruits and vegetables, the canned foods. You've got the granola bars, the cereals, and things like that that you put in your pantry that are also important to have because there may be situations where you just don't want to cook food, or it could be just dangerous to cook food. You don't want to waste the fuel you have. So there are a lot of different reasons why having some of these no-cook options are the way to go. At least have some of your food storage be these no-cook food options. These options that you can just open straight up, eat them, and you're going to get those calories and the nutrients that you want. Now, it's not going to be as good, and you're not going to have as big of a variety as these foods that you can either warm up or cook, but they are going to get you through these situations. And I'll tell you what, if you're hungry, everything's going to taste wonderful if you're really hungry. So make sure that your food storage has these non-cook food options, as well as, you know, pick a few from the list that we talked about today and make sure you have those options to get some cooking done. And speaking of food storage, I've got a lot of different food storage videos on this channel, from the best types of canned foods to what the best types of foods to store in general are, and even the foods that will last, you know, basically forever. If you are interested in that, make sure and check out this video where I talked about the different powdered foods that you could put in your stockpile that are going to last 10, 15, 20 years, depending on what they are. But some of those you might want to have in your food stockpile as well. At any rate, I am done here today. Take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you all later.